Hopefully you've enjoyed our 5-part series on BMW's M3 masterpieces, where we've looked at the zenith of each generation from E30 to F80. It has been wonderful, jumping between all the different driver seats and exploring the similarities, oddities and connections across the M3's 30+ year history. Some things like the dials feel like they've hardly changed at all across the generations. There are other commonalities too, like a round 3-spoke steering wheel in each car, a proper handbrake, and of course the fact that they were all rear-wheel drive. And it's worth mentioning that the M3s with their kidney grills and 4 roundish, headlights have retained a very recognisable family face across the generations. Other things show a clear progression. The gearboxes, for example, go from dogleg to H-pattern manual to automated single clutch manual to dual clutch DCT. But then you have strange things like the fact that the E30 has electronically adjustable dampers, while the subsequent 3 generations were all on passive setups. Perhaps the biggest revelation for me, after driving them all in order, was feeling how the balance of the cars and your focus when driving them hard shifted over time, from really concentrating on the front end in the E30 to trying to keep the rear end in check in the E92 and F80. Anyway, I decided that in this last video I should perhaps, in a noticeably even-handed way, pick some highlights from the 5 cars. So let's pick a favourite engine first. It's probably fairly easy to guess, but it has to be that engine from the E46 CSL. I mean, it's a straight 6, which seems, well, very BMW fairly obviously, but it's the epitome of what you want from an M3 engine. High revving, naturally aspirated, and it just sounds incredible. Next up, all the looks. I know that's really very subjective, and how do you choose between something like the beautifully diminutive E30 all the way up to this, which still looks really good with the carbon fibre bonnet and the power dome and the little slat in there. It looks great. Still big arches. But you know, I'm tempted to give it to the E36 because it's a car that the more it's been around the last couple of days, the more I've really just enjoyed about it. Perhaps because I'm sort of a child of the 90s and it's a car from my era really. But I think with all the extra aero on it, it just looks right. In British racing green too. An odd colour choice for a German M car perhaps, but it works. Best brakes? No question. Has to be this, the carbon ceramics. I got gold calipers as well, I mean, for crying aloud, that's cool in itself. Perhaps the trickiest one of all is chassis balance. Which one's handling do I really enjoy the most? Out on the road, I think the E30, there's still some just bewitching magic about the way that goes down the road, the way it gets into the corner of the front end, and the rear just seems to follow you around, and yet it still feels perfectly balanced. It doesn't have the big oversteering moments that something like this has, or the E92, but it's so engaging. I love the E46 over the limit. I think it's probably the most beguiling of the cars. Once it's over that angle, it's so easy to control, and it just feels absolutely right, exactly as it is. And then of course there's the E92, which is just wild. But no, I think for pure chassis balance, the original homologation special, the E30, has to take it. So if I could take any of these cars home, which one it would be? Which one blends it all together perfectly? I'm so tempted to say the E30. It is just wonderful. But for me personally, I love that really oversteery balance that M3s have had more often of late. And I think the gearbox perhaps would frustrate me in the CSL. I love that engine, but perhaps I think if I could only pick one, it's going to be the V8 engine, the GTS. I'd have to wrap it, obviously. The next generation of BMW M3 is now not too far away, of course. We're not sure quite what it will hold, certainly not for any CS, CSL or GTS versions. Perhaps we'll see a revival of the Sport Evo moniker. You never know. But whatever the engineers in Munich are plotting, these 5 wonderful cars have given it a lot to live up to.